Located at the edge of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury is an unusual store named Fairie Children. The store is dedicated to gay and lesbian paganism. It contains a wide variety of material for the magical and healing arts. Its proprietor and coordinator, Grayson, has carefully selected the stock of ritual objects, literature, healing, and magical herbs. The store also acts as a focal point for the lesbian and gay alternative community. Grayson and I talked about his work and views of the magical arts. He first discusses his background and that of the store.
It's real important that I don't take sole credit for Fairie Children because it's really come into being through the work of a lot of fabulous people. One of which was my partner that opened it with me, Garen Smithback, who was diagnosed recently with AIDS and had to leave San Francisco to be with his family, which was really a trauma for all of us.
Mm. How long have you been here?
In this location, we just ended our 13th month, which is just a really great thing for us. And we were in another location for 6 months. And we have a corner in Santa Cruz, which we've had for about 2 years, I guess. Yeah.
What's the focus of the store?
Well, witchcraft. It's kind of hard to say that, to come up with one single focus. The old religions are the focus, with a special outreach and recognition of same-sex people, gay witches and lesbian witches, who I feel don't have enough equal space in the pagan world at this time. And so, being one of my own personal issues, we have dedicated the store to queer witches everywhere. My own history is that I'm Native American.
Which tribe?
My mother is Blackfoot, Skidee, before the white man took over. And my father was Cherokee. I come from Texas, of all places. I've always been pagan, I believe. I first started studying witchcraft when I was 10, and I'm currently, well, I've been doing it for 18 years, so I'm 28, and I was really fortunate. The goddess has led me through this glorious life. It's been rough, but it's been one of great learning. I went to a private school when I was chased out of public schools, literally chased out of public schools. My parents found a wonderful private school run by a brilliant woman, and she was a psychic. And the witches in the school, and there were other witches who had been chased out of school, we all felt that she was a witch, but that was a topic that was never really discussed with her. She did have this wonderful, wonderful magical place. There was a tree house to do our homework in, and she taught us all about opening our minds psychically, emotionally, intellectually, and learning from those experiences. And I feel that I owe a lot to her. Her name was Ellen McCarter Stewart, and a lot of people thought she was a real nutcase. And she was, but she was brilliant, brilliant educator.
Grayson speaks of the relevance of magic to politics.
You have to remember that magic is only an expression of the spirituality that we're feeling here, the spirituality that we experience here and share. Magic is part of it, a very strong and important part of it, ritual. For some people, magic is solely sitting in a darkened room with a candle burning, mumbling little magic words. But for a lot of us, it's an expression of our spirituality, and that's what we really focus on in this shop.
What is that spirituality?
Well, once again, it's kind of hard to explain other people's spirituality, but for me, it's a spirituality of creating your own reality, of connecting back with the nature, with the mother that we stand on. The goddess has always been very powerful in my life, and I feel very strongly about sharing that with anyone who wants it. We don't do missionary work, of course. We are witches, and we really don't believe in that. But people come looking, and the information is there, and the sharing is there.
Well, the spirituality you're talking about is very personal in the sense that there's no central authority, no central church. You may come together as covens or study groups or circles or whatever.
Yes.
The important part is that it's not a central...
Yes, there is no organized religion. There are some collectives made up of different covens and things. But it's important to remember that each witch is a soul practitioner. And a lot of those soul practitioners are members of covens. And those covens are their own religions in their own right. And so it's the most enlightening and freeing of all the spirituality all the spiritual forms that I know of. There isn't a hierarchy. Although some covens choose one, there isn't the power. There isn't the mind games. There isn't the propaganda. Although some covens may choose that path. That is entirely up to them. But there isn't that kind of hypnotic, cultism. I like that way of saying it. That you find in all these so-called organized religions. You find a constant mind, brainwashing propaganda technique in effect. And you really don't find that in the old religions. They're very beautiful.
Self-empowering.
Self-empowering, yes. That is the most important issue, I think, that they really empower you to think for yourself, act for yourself, and govern yourself.
Now that very statement flies in the face of the fundamentalist revival in this country, and safe to say other countries. In the modern day era, in the 1990s, what you're doing is still a revolutionary, because we have this Christian thing going on. How does it fit in? What is happening in that realm? Christians hate this, obviously. They fear it. They see it as the work of Satan, and they're very active in that. How do you react to that? How do you deal with all that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Satan, as the concept that they force on people, only came into being, I believe, like the 15th century. We're talking an idea that's only been around for a short period of time. There's one televangelist that calls all the old religions counterfeit religions. And what's really funny is that comes out of a man that's practicing a very new form of an idea that's only 2,000 years old. And most of the old religions that are being practiced go back 5,000. We have goddess symbols back when women were sacred. And you have to remember that gay males were sacred, lesbians were sacred, straight men were sacred, and women were sacred. And animals, yes. And the earth was our mother, and we all lived in harmony with that. That is something that has been lost, and I believe through the patriarchal systems that we have inherited through the colonization of the European imperialistic powers that have just gone from one new world to another and conquered after they conquered their own realm. It never ceases to amaze me how a Middle Eastern, a Hebrew mythology in the hands of white civilization has just been so blown out of proportion. And if you read what the Christ man says, if you go back and research the Christ man, it's absolutely appalling the way that they have desecrated that man's work. His whole life work was one of healing and love and sharing, and so therefore he's just as much a witch as the rest of us. Most people don't realize, that they talk about witches doing wrong, but the number one rule and the only rule is harm ye none, do what ye will. And the first line says it, harm ye none. We don't allow ourselves to do harm. We can't allow ourselves to do harm, because if we do, we accept the consequences. And that is a heavy responsibility. We're not given a list of 10 rules and then a whole lot of loopholes to break these rules in the name of this beautiful human who walked upon this planet and healed everyone. For the first person that he appeared when he supposedly rose up from the dead, he appeared to a woman that they remember as a prostitute. And yet, the women of this country and most countries in this world are completely oppressed and continue to be oppressed. And I think that lesbian women are probably much more oppressed, and consequently they're very politically organized and very powerful in that sense because they recognize their own power and will continue to do so. And hopefully the heterosexual female community will eventually realize just how empowered they are.
What about the future? What do you want to see for the future, either as your own work and or how that fits into the larger community? What about the future? Fantasies, visions, whatever.
Well, somebody, when we got vandalized, someone came in and said, well, you're on this tip of this big, beautiful wave that's coming ashore, and that's why you're pinpointed. And that's really what I want to see, is that big, beautiful wave crash on the rocks and everybody live in the glory of equality. I really have no desire to eradicate the Christians of the world. They have the right to their own spirituality. I have no desire to attack the Roman Catholic Church. They have the right to their own spirituality. I have no desire to squelch the Muslims. They have the right to their own spirituality. And what I'm getting at is that we have the right to our own spirituality, no matter who we are. That is the concept of this country, and that is the concept that will be endorsed in the long run, I believe. And as they get more aggressive and more conservative and more oppressive, they're going to continue stepping on a lot of people's toes. And you're going to find more and more diverse groups uniting in support of each other. I went to a wonderful event the other night here, which I thought was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It was a gathering of Native American, Mesoamerican, and African American peoples. And it was a beautiful, beautiful event with drumming and dancing. And then everyone that was at the rally joined into a march. And it went through the mission area here in San Francisco. And there were performance pieces on every corner showing the oppression of peoples. There was a beautiful corner, there was a beautiful job done where they talked about the oppression of women and gay men in Europe during the burning times. And I think it's real important that people realize that the Holocaust, the Holocaust of World War II was just a continuation of something that that has been taking place on this planet for hundreds of years. People have been killed in mass quantities because of their religion, and they continue to be so. There were estimated 9 million women and gay men and heretics who were destroyed for practicing the old religions during the burning times, which were several hundred years old. Took several hundred years. In this country, there were enormous atrocities that continue to be done, I believe. Anytime you have groups that preach hate and preach violence and go out and do this violence, you're going to have atrocities that will happen. It's really frightening. There are people being killed in the Middle East for their spiritual beliefs. And it's really sad because it's really a contradiction of what I see spirituality to be. But I think in the future, more and more union will come between the diverse groups. We're having a first meeting of a group here. We're calling it PAN, Pagan Activist Network. It's being put together by several wonderful gay and lesbian witches, and it's real important once again for me to stress that this is not my idea. This is the idea of a lot of people. And someone came up with the name Pan and approached us about it the other day, and it was just absolutely delightful. Pagan Activist Network. And that says a lot right there, that our spirituality has moved into the realm of activism. It's very hard to be a practitioner of the old religions and not have to take responsibility for what goes on in your community and take the responsibility to voice the issues that you feel are important, which tend to be the issue of sexism, the issue of racism, the issue of the ecology, the issue of human rights in general. And now homophobia has become a very important issue. And Pan will be doing a lot to focus on fighting homophobia in its many forms every chance we get. It's really hard to speak for the group once again, because it will hopefully be as diverse as possible, as diverse as this country.
Well, I want to thank you for talking.
Well, thank you.
Fun.
It's been a real pleasure.
And I've enjoyed working in your store and working with you.
Thanks. It's really been beautiful. You are a wonderful person. And I really thank you for the opportunity to voice the issues. I would like to say one more thing, if that's okay. And this is to anyone who sees this. If you're pagan and witch, and you're gay or lesbian, you aren't alone. There are so many of us everywhere. And we're going to continue networking and building and growing and fighting for each other. And if there's anything you can do in your own community, do it. Because now is the time. This is really going to be the decade, I believe, of getting the oppression, getting the oppressors out, and now is the time to start movement.
Thank you.
Blessed be.
For more information or to contact Grayson, write or call Fairie Children, 1883 Hayes Street, San Francisco, California, 94117, area code 415-346-4959.